Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Two Geeks and a Noob podcast with your host, Super Beard Vince Hoover, and his co-hosts, Jason Q. Perez and Denise Jackson. A podcast for the indoctrinated nerd, the casual fan, and everyone in between. Now, on with the show.
Welcome, everybody, to the fourth episode of the Two Geeks and a Noob podcast. Make sure you click down, like, and subscribe on YouTube as well as on any of the audio podcasts. Make sure you subscribe to those so you can get it every week the second it comes out. I am your host, Super Beard Vince Hoover. I am joined, as always, by Jason Q. Perez and Denise Jackson. How are you guys doing today?
How's it going?
How are y'all?
I am emotionally spent.
Yeah.
Before we begin, I would like to say that Loki Episode 4, to me, in my opinion only, is the greatest piece of media that Marvel has ever put out. Period. Just that 45-minute episode was just 2 strings shy of perfect. It was just
that means something coming from you because you're really, really picky.
Yeah, I'm also a huge Marvel fan. Like, I love all the movies, and I've been a big proponent of that Kevin Feige can do no wrong. And that the MCU really has got their formula down and whatnot. They've subjugated or subverted their entire formula here. And yet, like I said, given us just one of the greatest pieces of media from them in this episode. Before we break into the actual specifics, Q, give me your feelings on the episode, and then Denise, you the same.
It made me cry. That's not cool. That's not cool. Okay, so it was. I watched it on my lunch break in my car. Thank God I was by myself because I was like I would have been embarrassed had I been around anybody else. Yeah. They got me emotional, and if you get me emotional, man, that's really hitting home. You can see how emotionally invested we're getting into these characters, and if it's making us feel this way, absolutely.
Yeah, and essentially a villain too, or a character that started as a villain. Denise, what did you think?
I wasn't expecting so much to be in this episode. It definitely didn't leave anything to be desired. I'm only imagining what they're going to put in the final one.
Yeah, we've got 2 more episodes to go, and yet so much happened that feels like, wait, what? It felt like a finale almost, like it was such high stakes.
I agree. I was really neat.
So I did the Geek Show after show earlier this morning, right immediately after the episode, and spoiler alert for all our fans, Dimitri, the host of the Geek Show, will be on our final, the episode 6 Loki podcast. So episode 6 of Two Geeks and a Noob, he will be here as a special guest. But we had a really hard time. Normally when we talk on the after show, we try to keep the entire show linear. So we start at the beginning of the episode and work our way down. It was so incredibly difficult with this episode to stay linear. Like, we kept jumping around on different things because it was like, oh, and then this, and then this, and then and it was just so hard to I'm going to attempt to try to keep it linear, which is why I have my notes, but even my notes aren't linear. There is nothing linear about that. I am all over the board. So if we jump around, it's fine. There is one big thing I do want to talk about, but not right away, and that's the relationship aspect.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge thing we need to talk about, but I don't want to get into that right away. That's what started the whole snowball of jumping all over the place earlier this morning. So, in the beginning of the episode, we see a young Sylvie playing with some toys. She's got a dragon, and she's got a Valkyrie figure, and she's playing, and the TVA with Agent Renslayer comes busting in and just grabs this girl for being a variant. No explanation, just this young 10, 11, 12-year-old girl, which, I don't know, in Asgard, Thor's 1,500 years old, Loki's just shy of 1,500, so what does a 12-year-old look like? Is she actually 12, or is she 100? But still, she's a young girl.
Right.
They just snagged her up. And then Renslayer got played.
Mm-hmm.
That little girl tricked the shit out of her and just mine, peace out, bitches, and gone. So it gave us the backstory. So we know that Sylvie was adopted by Odin and Frigga, but she didn't get to grow up with them, and she had to go into hiding at a young age. So, how traumatic. We know, there's nothing else that says why she is the way she is now. Like, that's very obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Denise, what did you think of that? Especially being a mom.
I was wondering why that hasn't been brought up at all. Her being adopted. Why Thor and Loki told about this situation?
Well, she's not from their timeline.
Oh wait, because they erased it though.
Yeah, they erased that timeline, and that's Loki. So it was just it is Loki. Yeah. She's just a female version of him because he's gender fluid. So when the baby was picked up, it just was a girl instead of a boy this time.
Right.
So it was like a redo then when they adopted Loki. Essentially, does time work that way then?
No, it's not a redo. It's a completely different time. So
yeah,
let's say they're on the sacred timeline, right?
Uh-huh.
They grab the baby. The baby's a woman. Well, that's not supposed to be. That makes you a variant. The time cops show up because her being, it being a female Loki, it caused a branch. The time variance authority shows up, picks her up, and erases that branch. So it's still back to where the adoption is, and it's just the sacred timeline of the Loki we know, the main Loki from the series.
Right. But and then my other question was, why is she a brunette as a child and then blonde, as an adult?
In episode 3, they actually mention it, and the director dived into this further because it's very like the audio equivalent of blink and you miss it. I don't know how you blink your ears, but she says Loki's like, so you changed your name and dyed your hair to go into hiding.
Okay.
She dyed her hair blonde. And the director went into that further, saying that she indeed dyed her hair. Dyed her hair. This is episode 4's fault this time.
Yeah.
My heart was racing all morning. But yeah, she dyed her hair as part of her hiding, because they were looking for a brunette. What I find kind of funny, and we know more why, and we'll get into it later in the episode. Remember how Mobius kept saying, we're looking for him, we're looking for him, we're looking for him? Renslayer knew it was a woman.
Right. She had to have known. It was the one she let go.
She was the one who got pickpocketed. So she knew who it was. But that goes back to Renslayer turning out to be a villain.
Yeah. Big time.
Yeah. So early in the episode, and of course later on in the episode, we finally saw the Timekeepers. We finally showed them. And we made the comparison probably 2 episodes ago in our podcast of The Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
Yeah.
Boy, were we right.
Man, that's one
yeah.
Boy, were we right. There's obviously a person behind the curtain.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's not assume man, because that's what happened to Mobius, and he didn't know he was looking for a female. Man, just... I'm going to tell you what. Now, Denise, you haven't watched WandaVision yet, but there was a reveal in WandaVision, literally with a song, that it was Agatha all along. The neighbor is pretty much the main villain of the series. Spoiler, sorry, but it's actually also pretty obvious. Like, once you get past episode 2, it was like the biggest unkept secret of WandaVision was that Agatha was going to be Agnes. So Renslayer, to me, it's kind of the same thing. Like, we all expected or suspected that she had something to do with this.
Uh-huh.
Right, yeah.
Especially after her discussion with Mobius the first time in her office.
Yeah.
But man, she killed C20?
I don't know.
Well, and that's like maybe not too. Yeah. I agree with Denise now. So what were you thinking, Denise?
Well, I just don't feel like it. Like she is it. I feel like she's gonna come back, and I don't know what they're gonna do with her. But
my thing is
bringing up the fact again that they said it's real, it's real, it's real. So
right.
I mean, that can't be the end of her. Something else will pop up.
Well, okay. So all these people getting reset after watching Loki get reset into the. I know I'm jumping. Sorry.
I was getting the exact same thing. I was like, screw linear. We got to jump because that's this episode, man. But yeah, go ahead.
It's like, look, these people getting reset. How do we know that they're actually dead if Loki got reset and got sent somewhere else?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Listen to him.
Okay,
Yeah.
exactly. What if? I don't know.
Okay.
Go.
So, for lack of a better term, it's limbo.
Yes, thank you. That's exactly what I was going to say. It is
world,
limbo.
and it's New York. Because behind the 4 new Lokis from the post-credit scene, and I know we're jumping all over the place, is a broken down Avengers
Tower.
Also, if you had the captions on, when he asked, "Is it hell?" They spelled it HEL, 1L,
which is the hell that Hela runs in Norse mythology.
Right.
It's one of the 9 realms.
I was wondering
Loki,
if that
hell
was
only is spelled with 1L.
Which, being that she's not there now, would have been a plus for him because he probably could have taken over.
Yeah, but like, which we might even see the whole President Loki thing. But, so for Norse mythology, their heaven is called Valhalla, and their hell is called Hell, but with 1L, and it's run by Hela, who in actual Norse mythology is the daughter of Loki, but in the Marvel continuity, daughter of Odin. And she was in charge of Hell, but she was also imprisoned there until Odin died. So yeah, let's just jump into it, man. Mobius got pruned, baby. I was like,
I cried.
I was like,
oh,
no.
That's not cool.
But now,
you bastard.
With that post-credit scene, I'm far more comfortable that he'll be back. Now
Absolutely.
I know that he's listed on IMDb Pro to be in 5 episodes. So he'll obviously be in at least one more. But will he be in one more as like a flashback? Or will he actually be in the episode? And it could be 6. Like IMDb is not always 100%. So he could actually be in all 6. But we might have to go all of episode 5 without him. But considering I think episode 5 is going to focus on the Council of Lokis, which I was partially right about.
Yeah.
It may just be that it's solely no agents are going to be in this episode. Like we may not even see Renslayer, except for maybe being interrogated by Sylvie.
Right.
But yeah, just his death was crazy, and then Loki getting pruned.
I want to revisit the Sylvie thing. Now that we see why she's doing what she's doing, we had a lot of theories as to who, if anybody was behind her. And this proves now she was acting out on her own, and we know this episode is explained to us why. Her motivation is pretty clear. So all those assumptions now put aside. So now we can because a lot of them's tied into what could be Kang, or what it could be another Loki, but she's not affiliated with any of the other supposed Lokis that we kind of already predicted were going to show up.
Okay, let's go ahead. Again, we're not going to go linear. I wanted to talk about this later, but we're going to talk about it now because you mentioned him, you brought it up, so let's go with it. Kang the Conqueror.
Yes.
So many people right now are theorizing that Kang is really the one behind the Timekeepers, because as we found out, once Sylvie cut one of the Timekeepers' heads off, they're just mindless androids.
Yep.
And they even laughed. The other 2 laughed as their head rolled down. And it did look weird. Like, they felt almost out of place. Like, their CGI was very bright and obvious. Like, it felt a little out of place. And that was done because they're not real. So, Denise, I actually have a question for you. I know that technically you are the one that's supposed to be asking the questions, but this is going to go towards where my theory goes. Do you know who Kang the Conqueror is?
Only from when we talked about it a couple of episodes ago when I mentioned the city in Ant-Man.
Yes.
But no.
Yeah. So, Kang the Conqueror is a character that you cannot just... Like, you can't just throw him in a final episode and expect everybody to know who he is. This is not 9 episodes long like WandaVision was, where you could send basically a whole episode on Agatha. There's only 2 episodes left, and there's still so much with Loki we have to discover. So there's no time to put Kang the Conqueror in. I still think he may get name dropped.
Or teased. At the very end.
But I don't think he's the one behind the Timekeepers. I still think it's King Loki. Now, my theory was that Richard E. Grant was playing King Loki And it seems I might have been wrong about that, because we now know that Richard E. Grant is playing classic Loki, wearing the 1963 outfit from the Avengers 1. In all its very, like, almost Party City glory. It was amazing to see. But I still think, so, like, so if they just put this character in there, Marvel's, like, basically saying, screw you, casual fan. Here's the big bad. You should know who he is. They didn't do that. Like with Thanos, they showed the guy in the post-credit scene. He turned around and smiled. That was it. And so the casual fan had time to ask, well, who is that? And the nerds would fill them in on Thanos. And then we don't actually see Thanos until freaking Guardians of the Galaxy, where he actually speaks.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, his story still it got built over movies. It got built from 2012 to 2019. Like, his story got built over an incredibly long time, so that even the casual fan could have some idea of who he is. And they spent 2 movies on him, Infinity War and Endgame. So to drop King the Conqueror in here, to me, doesn't make sense. Because the casual fan doesn't have any clue who he is. He wasn't even big in a lot of media outside of the comic books. Yes, he was in a few of the cartoons, but he was never in them long. Like, he didn't have long appearances in cartoons. He's not been in any of the video games where, like, a lot of people use Thanos in, like, the Capcom video game and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just nothing for even the casual fan to grab hold of here. So I'm sticking to it is another variant Loki. It is King Loki. It is a disenfranchised, superior Loki. How many times have we talked about the superior Loki in these 4 episodes?
Yeah, they brought it up again.
Yeah,
right.
Loki thinks he's a superior one. Sylvie thinks she's a superior one.
Yeah.
All the variants have thought it in some way, shape, or form. So there could be one who is so disenfranchised that has taken over the TVA, or maybe even created it, or I don't think maybe created it but definitely, like, took it over because they want to be the superior Loki. And to be superior Loki, you're not just king of Midgard, Earth, or of Asgard. You're king of
time. The 9 realms.
Yeah, you're king of time. You're in control of everyone's free will. So
I did want to bring up the mention that, the universe was mentioned, I think, twice in the episode. The universe really doesn't want to be controlled. And so it kind of reacts, and they pointed out that possibly the existence of the Lokis themselves were the reflexive, reaction of the universe to be free and not have the time variance authority, control it. So I don't know. I mean,
it's very Ian Malcolm Jurassic Park. Life will find a way.
Yeah.
You cannot control it because chaos has to exist. And that's what they are. They're the living embodiment of chaos. That's what Lokis are. So, yeah. Let me see here.
Could the timekeepers be controlled by the one that came before? The one that was what? The one that was?
The one above all?
The one above all?
I mean, maybe, but you're introducing a literal, like, I know we have gods in the MCU, but the one above all is the comic book equivalent to God, like capital G God. The one above all is the one who created everything. Like, that's a lot to introduce with only 2 episodes to go as well. Hold on here. So, Denise, I'm going to get your reaction to this first. As Loki and Sylvie are sitting there waiting for the planet to just fall down on them and kill them, Sylvie touches Loki on the arm in a caring, like, I'm here with you kind of way, and sure enough, it creates a massive and never before seen Nexus event. Mm-hmm. What do you think that meant? Somebody who's just been, like, watching this show.
I think it would go along with, or it would be the same equivalent if the alligator Loki was there and picked it up and hugged it. It would create the same kind of event. It's just it wasn't supposed to happen.
Well, let me rephrase it. Do you think it is Loki finally learning to love himself, albeit in the body of another person, that caused this Nexus event?
Well, I don't think they ever assumed that two Lokis would be so connected, which is why they try to keep them apart the whole time.
Well, because we do know they have touched before. They touched last
Right,
episode.
not in this kind of way, though.
Exactly. And, of course, Mobius, as pissed as he is, while he's interrogating Loki, is just prodding him. Like, it's like, you narcissist. You fell in love with yourself. You love her.
Yeah.
You've got a crush on her. I don't
see it either.
I think it's a misdirect.
Yeah, I
don't
think so
it's
too.
About, like, again, jumping ahead, when he gets pruned, he's about to express something to her, confess to her.
Yeah.
I think Loki is finding self-love, finding love for himself, because throughout this series, he's admitted, I'm the weak one. He did it again with Lady Sith, which, hey, Lady Sith is back. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But in that time loop prison, very akin to Dormammu and Doctor Strange,
Mm-hmm.
He admits it. Like, look, I pick on people and I annoy people because I crave attention because I'm afraid I'm going to be alone. He's really like, if nothing else, this is a
self-diagnosis.
It's like a therapy session.
Yeah.
All these events are like a fast lane therapy session for Loki. So I think that this relationship with Sylvie is not a romantic love. I think it is he's learning to love himself through her because he's seen what he could be in so many ways. I don't think it's romantic. I know a lot of people are like, oh, we should have seen them kiss. Listen, give it up. Like, just stop. We don't have to sexualize everything either.
No.
I just think it's more about learning to love himself and see the flaws within himself. And I will admit that the time cell, that would be a hell. That would be an eternity of hell.
Yeah.
A time loop reliving just a terrible memory, but not even like a majorly traumatic one. Just a shitty memory.
Yeah.
Just this time he got kneed in the balls by Lady Sif for cutting her hair. Like, so it's painful, but it's also annoying. That's worse than what... Oh, actually, it's really what Doctor Strange did. He annoyed the crap out of Dormammu. He annoyed him to the point of leaving the Earth realm forever.
And taking all his followers with him, right?
Yeah. Like, he literally just annoyed him. And that's what this was. But, okay, so... I
agree. I don't think this is the sexual thing. And I had mentioned that last week too, that, I saw possible sexual tension, but I think you're right. It's a misdirect at this point. They want our hypersexualized minds to think that way when it's really a much bigger character development plot.
Yeah.
And
it's much deeper than a physical.
Yeah. And we also know it's not about, sibling acceptance, which he had to go through with Thor because he kind of got that fast forward, emotional, rush when he saw his life after the fact, after he had been taken from the TVA, had he not jumped out. And it's not about, his father accepting him. It's, down to those two things. It's love yourself or bang yourself. And I don't think it's bang yourself. I think it's love yourself.
Yeah, I agree. Almost like, no, I didn't want to bring that up because then we'll get toxic Star Wars fans going nuts. So never mind. I'm not going to do it.
Do it.
No, because that's a rabbit hole I don't want to go down.
Yeah.
So, Denise, I want to get your thoughts on B-15. The agent.
Yeah.
For the first 3 episodes, was a complete ass. Just the worst. Like, she was so, like, militant. TVA.
She was doing her job.
Yeah, but I mean, she was one of those, like, beyond...
Just do your job and then...
She was, like, beyond blindly following. Like, she would have pruned Mobius if he'd, like, stepped out of line. Like, she was that type of, like, militant about it. Like, she was that overly militant about it. But just being enchanted by Sylvie for that few minutes that she fought Loki in episode 2. That memory, she couldn't get it out of her head. And sure enough, she saw that in her past she was happy. And that's the thing about these variants, is that when Loki became a variant, it seemed like he did it with evil intent. Because this was still 2012 Loki. He had just been captured after trying to take over the world. And he escaped because he wanted to do it again. So it seemed like variants had like an evil intent to him. But now we're seeing that variants can just be, I was late to work when I wasn't supposed to be. So you could be a really good person, or you could be a child.
Right.
And you're just going to get picked up and pruned. So B-15 apparently had a life that she was very happy in.
Yeah.
That was one hell of a scene.
Yeah.
Now Marvel used the trope of doing it in the rain to simulate crying with the whole world is crying. That's a big trope in Hollywood. But I also understand why she picked that spot, because that's where they fought and that's where she was possessed or enchanted.
And that it was a good place to hide because it was about
because an apocalypse. Yeah. But Denise, I want to get like your opinion on the TVA agents, like the variants and what we've learned.
It's just mind-blowing. I didn't expect them all to be variants. I thought that was their actual job. So to have someone actually like that go against the role that she played so well, and just from that one time totally flip script, was really, really cool to see. It made it seem more real.
Yeah, because it's one thing for Mobius to do it, because Mobius has always been kind of against the grain. Since we first met him, he's like, well, no, let me get Loki. Let me do this. Like, he's always been that kind of like, that maverick agent. You know, he's like the Han Solo. I did it again. He's the Han Solo of the TVA. So you would expect him to question things. You'd expect him to, like, the second Loki said that they're being lied to, you expect him to question it. But for B-15 to make that switch, like, granted, she was shown the truth.
Yeah.
In a way that she couldn't deny it anymore.
Right.
And it's more than just seeing it. She felt it. You know? She's reliving a life that she completely forgot, and all of those memories and emotions came back to her. Yeah, that's enough to make someone go 180 real quick.
Yeah, that was really neat.
Yeah.
So, okay, what I thought, did you guys ever see the TV show called Travelers?
Oh God, yeah, a long time ago though.
Yeah. So at first I thought that's kind of like how the TVA was pulling people. They were pulling them right before they were about to die, as they did in that TV show.
Yeah.
That way they were plucked neatly out of the timeline. And that, you know, that's how the Travelers did it, going backwards into the past. But so, I mean, do we think and feel like that they're plucking people straight out of their life? Yeah. I mean, we saw that with, you know, obviously we saw that with Sylvie, but, you know, I thought maybe Mobius was on his jet ski about to die as he, you know, wrecked into a dock, and that's maybe when they pulled him. But okay, so
yeah,
yeah.
Mobius.
Okay, see, Mobius going back to him too.
Oh my God.
So are we still pulling for the idea that there's multiple Mobiuses?
Possibly.
You know, because now if we just killed the one that we thought, now all of a sudden it just takes away the emotional wrecking of, you know, killing one Mobius, and there's going to be another one, or multiple other ones.
Again, we have to look at that post-credit scene. Is he actually dead, or is he in some kind of limbo?
Right.
Because it wouldn't make any sense to me that when Loki got pruned, he was the only one to live from the pruning.
Right.
It wasn't like they changed the setting on the stick.
Yeah.
It just hit him and pruned him. So I'm assuming that everybody goes to this. What I'm assuming is like just a separate secret timeline that the TV or whoever's controlling the timekeepers is holding at bay. A place to dump the variants that are pruned because they don't actually die, or at least they don't have the ability to kill them off. I don't know. But I feel like what the post-credit scene shows to us is that when you're pruned, you don't die. You go to this post-apocalyptic world, this different timeline. So Mobius, to me, is still alive. So maybe it's not that there are multiple Mobiuses. Maybe he has just questioned multiple times, been pruned multiple times, and then picked back up, mind erased, because everybody gets their mind erased when they become an agent, and then wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, here you go, you're an agent. And they maybe in the process of wiping their original life, they implant that you've been here for however long, doing all these things. Like the Mobius we see, he could have been pruned a month ago and just brought back, but then given his memories. So the multiple Mobius theory for me switches a little bit here. That it's the same Mobius, just
recycled.
Recycled, yes, perfect word. But we also know Council of Lokis. So there are multiple versions of the same person. We saw classic Loki, we saw Kid Loki, we saw Gator Loki, and then the fourth one in the credits he was listed as Boastful Loki. And to me, he was like a post-apocalyptic steampunk Loki. He had like a makeshift version of Thor's hammer, but with like a giant monkey wrench for a handle and like gold-plated metal to make up the hammer kind of thing. So, and he's played by, I'm gonna butcher this name so bad, Diobia Operii? I don't know.
Many apologies, sir.
Yes, I'm terrible at that kind of thing. But so it kind of I originally kind of thought that maybe the Council of Lokis was the one behind the the Timekeepers. I kind of feel like I can throw that one out now.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so Denise, as somebody unfamiliar with the comics and unfamiliar with the Council of Lokis, what was your thought when you saw that? When he sat up and there was these 4 different versions of Loki.
I didn't know what to think. I was like, is this another trick? Like another teleport right to another apocalyptic world? And that's where they just put all the other Lokis too, just kind of standing there. What's going to happen?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I said. It's when he got pruned, he got sent to, again, I'm using the term limbo. And part of the reason I am using the term limbo, and it's probably not good that I'm using it, is because Kang the Conqueror rules limbo. He did, in the comic books, he struck up a deal with the Timekeepers, and they put him in charge of limbo, and they made him immortal. And he was supposed to help them keep time in check. And this is after he tried to rule time. That's when he took on the name Immortus, when he became immortal. But yeah, I think it's great we're getting the Council of Lokis. Obviously, our Loki is still going to be egotistical enough to try to take over. We've seen the clip in the trailer of him as president, vote for Loki. He's got this really crappy suit on and all these kind of barbarian-looking guys around him, which I think leads to like the boastful Loki people. But yeah, just absolutely nuts, this whole episode. So many revelations, so many emotional. Like, let's explore a little bit further, going back to when Mobius is interrogating Loki.
Okay.
And Loki just tries to flip the switch. He'd be like, yeah, it was me all along. She was a pawn. And then he just tells her, Mobius pulls a Loki. He's like, yeah, well, we've done you a favor then. We killed her.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And his reaction.
Yeah. It was like losing his mother. It was the exact same facial expression from when he watched his mother die in episode 1.
And then he had to play it off like he was good about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good riddance, he said.
Yeah.
Can we just talk about how great of an actor Tom Hiddleston is? My God.
Yeah.
Just
It's layered emotions right there.
yeah. All right. So, Denise, I want you to think of any questions you may have had coming out of this episode. Because that's, at the end of the day, that's kind of what this podcast is about. It's about bridging the gap between the casual fan and the hyper nerd. So, what questions do you have getting ready for episode 5 and everything else?
Gosh. Come back to me.
Okay.
I'll think about it.
All right. Well, a side note I want to cover, and this is kind of more for Jason, vampires.
Oh, yes. There was a little hint about that, wasn't there?
Yeah. Now, we know Blade's coming.
Yeah.
Mahershala Ali is going to be playing Blade. We know that's coming sometime after Phase 4. But he said that, we've dealt with Kree, we've dealt with Titans, we've dealt with vampires.
Mm-hmm.
Such a great drop that I think a lot of people thought was going to happen with mutants. But we did get with vampires.
Mm-hmm.
So, are we only getting Blade because this opening up of the multiverse and eliminating of just the sacred timeline reopens the door for vampires? Are vampires a type of variant that are that's why we think about it in our real world sense. Vampires aren't real; they're just made up. But were they actually real and they're just like variants that get picked up? It's like a variant version of somebody becomes a vampire.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Some vampires have, sought out, extreme powers of sorcery. Perhaps they started using it for time travel, and then they started getting picked up by the TVA. I have not read a lot of Blade, so I don't know of any I could point out that might have any of that.
Yeah, I can't think of any. Well, you gotta remember, for the longest time, Blade wasn't a vampire himself. The whole Daywalker story from the movie, the original 1998 Wesley Snipes movie, that was added into the comics after that movie. He wasn't a Daywalker before that. He was just a vampire hunter. He was a regular man. So the books took a turn after that movie, and they definitely got a little bit weirder. But, all right, wild speculation theory. Wild, most likely not correct speculation theory. Let's throw it out there. Let's see if I can get this to go viral. Let's do this. The name dropping of vampires will help lead to the Sony Spider-Verse blending even more into the MCU. Because we do have Mobius the Living Vampire coming out in January. So could this name drop of vampires help bridge the gap even further? Because as of right now, only Spider-Man can jump from the MCU to the Sony Spider-Verse. And some Vulture is doing the same thing. Because we did see Vulture in the trailer for Mobius. But it's basically... But the characters that were in the Spider-Man solo films for Tom Holland, besides Ned, haven't been in the MCU. They've just been in the solo films. So the reality is really it's Tom Holland Spider-Man has been the only one to jump into MCU and then the Sony Spider-Verse, and that's what they've talked about. But could this vampire hint be leading to a much more merging of Sony and Disney? Because also don't forget, Sony has made a deal with Disney where they're going to put Sony movies on Disney Plus.
Oh.
Not just Spider-Man either. Like Jumanji and several other. There's a new deal in the works. They're going to go to Netflix first for a few months, and then they're going to go and stay on Disney Plus. So are we seeing not necessarily the same as the Fox Disney merger, where Disney just flat out bought out Fox?
Yeah.
But are we seeing a blending,
a partnership
with Sony and Disney that could lead to more mixing of the Marvel universes?
This would be a good opportunity to do that.
Is it one of the first breadcrumbs?
Okay. Is Blade property of Marvel or Sony?
Nope, it's still Marvel.
Okay.
Marvel does own it. It was with Fox, or was it Fox? I don't know if Blade was Fox.
Yeah. Let's ask the internet.
Thank you. Look that up for a second. But I know that now they've got the rights back to Blade. So, In fact, the only thing they don't have the rights to now are the Spider-Man characters. That's the only thing they don't have the rights back to. So,
they're full good with the X-Men?
Yeah, they have all the X-Men rights back. That was at Fox, so they got that when they bought Fox. There are a couple other characters they don't have the full rights back to. One of them is actually the Hulk. The distribution rights for the Hulk are still owned by Universal, which is why they don't make any more solo Hulk films. And so is Namor, but I think Namor's rights actually did get back to Disney. But so again, that was just my wild theory that doesn't really have anything behind it except for speculation and the fact that they name dropped vampires. But I mean, we also know that there was a time when they were shooting the first Iron Man movie that it was going to turn out that Tony Stark was the guy who created Dr. Octopus's arms in Spider-Man 2. That those arms would be Stark Industries arms. That was a plan, and they eventually dropped it. So this partnership with Sony is not new. This is something they've discussed multiple times. This is something they've at least played with the notion. Now, granted, at that time, Marvel wasn't with Disney. They were actually with Paramount. Or the movie was being done with Paramount. It was an independent film. Like, Marvel Studios was doing it on their own. But still, like, Marvel has approached Sony, obviously, to work on things. So, I mean, is it completely unfounded then? My theory that is crazy and probably not true?
Blade was distributed by New Line Cinema.
Yeah, that was who distributed it. I don't remember who owned it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know that the rights are now back with Marvel. So I've heard a couple theories on Renslayer. A lot of it has to do with her telling Sylvie to kill her. Like, go ahead, do it. Kill me.
Okay.
Some think that it was regret because she did show emotion when Mobius was pruned.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that she wanted Sylvie to kill her because she didn't want to be interrogated for information because she obviously knows too much. Denise, how did you take that scene when Sylvie finally got the drop on Renslayer?
I didn't think that she thought she was going to do it.
You think she said it just like almost like you won't do it.
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like no balls. No balls.
No,
Yeah.
I did see a little bit of worry in her eyes. Yeah. No, I don't see Renslayer being remorseful, but I did see a little bit of worry in her eyes. So
yeah, the only time the only time she showed remorse was when Mobius died. Because I think there was definitely a friendship connection between those two. And I think there may have been even a part of her that liked his kind of almost cavalier style attitude. But she was still able to keep him in check for the most part because he also had blind faith.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, I mean, and this episode especially, but this series has kind of been an allegory for religion.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been like this blind faith to the mysterious man behind the curtain, or, when I say man behind the curtain, I'm not talking the person behind the timekeepers. I'm talking about the timekeepers themselves. Because, it was like Mobius had been there forever, how long he's been there, but he's never met the timekeepers. And then Renslayer's like, we want you in there when we execute these two. I think she wanted him in there because he was going to get pruned too.
Yes, I believe that. Because he was already
starting to show the cracks in his faith.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I'm using the word faith on purpose. Because like I said, I do believe this has been an allegory towards, it's kind of a jab at dogmatic religion.
Yes.
Not at spirituality, at dogmatic religion.
Right.
Blindly believing the word of some authority figure who supposedly speaks to the almighty authority figure and tells you this is how it is.
with rigid rules.
Yeah. But it's just their interpretation, that kind of thing.
Not to be questioned.
Yeah. And were you getting that at all, Denise? Do you see these parallels that I'm talking about? Did that come across, or am I diving too deep into this?
Yeah, I wasn't really thinking that way. But talking about Kang makes me wonder if that's the other analyst.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. But again, you not knowing who Kang is.
Yeah.
Introducing that character, with there's no time for a backstory. Because we have 2 episodes to go. We have, unless they extend the time on the next 2 episodes, they're going to be roughly 45 minutes each. It might be an hour for the finale, because they did extend both Falcon and the Winter Soldier and WandaVision's finale. So it might be an hour, but still, we've got less than 2 hours to go. We just got introduced in a post-credit scene to the Council of Lokis. So here's a whole other thing we now have to explore in the next episode. When is there time to introduce Kang? When? The casual fan will have no idea who that is.
You could easily do one of those fade to memory things, though, that they do and show you who he is real quick.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be quick. Because a lot of the thing with Kang the Conqueror coming in right now, a lot of his backstory is wrapped heavily in the Fantastic Four, who have never been introduced in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
But will be.
They will be, yes. There's a final film of Phase 4.
Right.
But Quantum Mania comes out before that, and they're obviously going to be changing his story. So not only do you have to wrap it up so that the casual fan knows who he is, you have to find a way to wrap it up that makes sense to the hardcore fans who knows who he is and is going to see and accept the changes you're going to make. And we've seen so many people already having issues with the fact that, and Marvel's done it the entire time. Since 2008, they've done it, where they take a character and blend it with another character, or they take the character and it's basically that character in almost name only, or they gender swap, or they race swap or whatever, but they make changes because this is not Earth 616. This is not the comic books.
Right.
So the idea is to flesh these characters out. A perfect example is Ultron. Ultron was not created by Tony Stark.
No, he was not.
He was created by Hank Pym.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's part of the reason he is bad, because Hank Pym in the comic books is an even bigger douche than Michael Douglas's Hank Pym in the MCU. I mean, he's a terrible person. And with a lot of these movies taking place, pulling a lot of their stuff from the Ultimate Universe, that Hank Pym is even worse. So, yeah, I just don't see how you force feed Kang into this series at this point, is what I'm saying. I think that would have had to been at the latest episode 2. Because then you could have sprinkled them in here and there, you know what I mean? But I just don't see, and again, there's a possibility it could be Kang. I could be completely wrong in this. I just don't see how you force feed that character in, especially when these shows are designed and these movies are designed to be for everybody.
Could there be another Mobius then? He's the other agent as well.
Whoa. Holy shit.
Ladies and gentlemen, Denise has just dropped something that could be a hellacious theory.
And
we are going to run with this.
Yeah.
Could Kang be a Mobius variant? Now, we know who's playing him. We already know who's playing Kang, because that's been announced. Jonathan Majors, most namely known for Lovecraft Country. He is one hell of an actor. I'm so excited to see him as Kang. He is a person of color. However, we've already shown that you can be gender swapped as a variant. You can be color swapped as a variant. You can be species swapped as a variant.
Yeah.
Gator Loki.
Yeah.
Gator Loki. He's a gator.
Alla Loki Gator. I'm going to get that on a shirt. I love that.
That is really funny.
Get that on a shirt. But yeah, I mean,
Kang and Mobius variant.
Wow. Yeah, I'm blown away by that thought. And that's, I think, one of the best things about this podcast
And about being a noob.
Well, that's the thing. That's what I mean about this podcast. Because Jason and I, we are so set in the comic books that thought didn't even come to us.
No. You have the ability to think out of the box.
Even in the comics, there are multiple Mobiuses.
Uh-huh.
So why?
Well, they didn't do that yet.
Why that thought didn't come in our heads, I have no idea. But having somebody who is coming into these movies and shows fresh, you've seen every Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Nearly every show on Disney Plus. So you have a grasp of the characters that have been presented in film.
Right.
But you don't have the comic book history background of nearly 80 years of Marvel Comics that have been retconned and written by so many different writers that comic book history is one of the most convoluted histories.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether it's Marvel, DC, even Image, or Vertigo, or Black Horse, Dark Horse, whatever. They're all convoluted.
That's the only way for it to
Fraggle
work.
Rock. That was my thing.
Fraggle Rock was the bomb.
Yes.
It was one of the best TV shows ever. And it still holds up.
It does.
By the way, watch it now. It's really good.
Yeah, I have.
It's really good. And deeper than I thought. There's some adult story, morals.
Right.
I was like, wow, this is deeper than I thought. I remember as a kid just being like, oh, pretty colors and Muppets. You know.
I have another question then.
Go.
All right. How long has Renslayer known about the Timekeepers? Then did she always know? Was she plucked out as a variant, or is she just behind it the whole time?
We know that she was a Minuteman at one time before she was a judge, but beyond that, we can only reference what we know in the comics.
So my theory is that when you get promoted to judge, because there was another judge there when she was a Minuteman, that when you get promoted to judge, when you become the person that is direct contact to Timekeepers, you are then informed of everything. And I have a feeling that
what they call read in.
Yeah, and I
like even that they're fake, or are you still led to believe that they're?
There may be. I think you may be shown the man behind the curtain, the Wizard of Oz here, because you are told about you're a variant. Everybody's a variant. You have to keep that a secret. And I feel like they're very particular about who they pick to become a judge or the judge. I also feel like that if, let's say, that agent who gets told that can't accept it, they then just get pruned. Like, oh, you can't accept it? Bye. All right, who's the next option to become a judge? So, now, granted, time doesn't work the way we normally does. So, like, I don't understand, like, retirement for a judge. Why does the original judge no longer judge? Did maybe he couldn't handle it and they pruned him? Did he just decide he was done? Did they, I don't know. Or, at the time she was an agent, was the TVA exactly what they said it was?
Right.
And then the person taking over did it with the help of Renslayer. Which that would lead to the Kang theory, because Renslayer is the love interest of Kang.
Right.
So that leads credence. So if that's what happens, then that would lead some credence to the Kang theory.
But then then when she nabbed Sylvie when she was little and had to face the Timekeepers, then
that theoretically was a time before when it was actually true to its
that might have been
its oath.
And it might have been the reason they've kept
theoretically.
Yeah, if this theory is to hold any water, they were still just taking people out. Like, if you were late to work, you died. If you were not supposed to be female, so you're a little kid, you're a variant, you die. Like, you're getting picked up for the most trivial reasons. Because maybe even the original Timekeepers still held this fact of we have to keep the sacred timeline, we don't want any branches. So maybe the multiversal war actually did happen. And the original Timekeepers really did fight to stop that multiversal war and create a sacred timeline, but they needed help to do it, like in the comics. They got Kang the Conqueror to help them do it. Kang then used that to take over the TVA. eliminate the original timekeepers, wham bam, thank you, man, we now have Kang in charge, and the timekeepers are nothing more than mindless androids.
Right.
Would the Sorcerer Supreme then play a role in that? Because she talks about the timeline a lot. And
I don't even know if she 100% knew the existence of the TVA. I did a video on TikTok about this because people talked about, she brought up multiverse in Doctor Strange.
Right.
During the scene where she's showing Strange all the different dimensions. But that's the thing about multiverse. That term has multiple meanings.
Mm-hmm.
In her case, she's talking about all the different dimensions.
When she was talking to Hulk,
mm-hmm.
when he went to go get the
Time Stone.
Time Stone, she was talking about how removing it would
create branch timelines.
Yeah.
That's what I meant by she didn't understand that there was an actual multiverse based around time and space. Her definition of multiverse is dimensions. There's multiple dimensions.
Okay.
The quantum dimension, the dark dimension, the mirror dimension, etc. She showed Banner that there is one timeline.
Right.
Protected by the Infinity Stones. But if you remove the Infinity Stones, that creates a branch timeline.
Right.
So, to me, she may not be aware of the TVA, but she did cement the TVA's purpose in the MCU by showing us that. That the reason, and maybe the Sorcerer Supreme is aware, because the reason they protect the Time Stone is to stop branch realities, to stop the threats to reality, which reality is this one sacred timeline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is why when he was talking about
so it's not a harmony,
giving it away.
So you don't think it's a harmony of different timelines?
Well, I think the end of this episode, this post-credit scene, opens up a lot of questions about that. Because obviously there's at least one other timeline.
To me, I could count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, no, okay, 5. If classic Loki, Kid Loki, boastful Loki, our Loki, I mean that's 5. That's 5 separate multiverse, or universes.
True, but they were pulled out of it, and those were then reset. So they're erasing the other timelines, but there still is at least 2 that we know exist for certain, because there's the sacred timeline, and now there's this, again, for lack of a better term, a limbo timeline where the people pruned get sent. So we know that even the TVA lies because they're keeping 2 timelines.
Okay.
So the sacred timeline is not the only timeline. So we know of at least 2 timelines. Now, the Nexus event that Sylvie and Loki created in a time when Nexus events shouldn't be possible. Because remember, the reason she hid in those pre-apocalyptic moments is because no matter what you did, it doesn't create a temporal indifference. But their connection created not only a Nexus event, but the biggest, fastest, and most unique one they had ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And if you noticed, it very quickly grew, and it very quickly went right to the red line.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to go back and watch to see if it actually crossed the red line. I can't 100% remember if it crossed the red line. But that would mean that the timekeepers or the TVA agents would have to go to this post-apocalyptic world very quickly, like when they picked them up, and reset it. So I don't know if there's... I'm sure there's more than one timeline. Like I said, we now know there's at least 2. And as much as we've kind of laid it out here that there is good groundwork for Kang the Conqueror to be behind everything. However, I'm still going to lean on it being a Loki.
Well, okay, so I mean, the other reason I asked that question, going back to the timelines, is how are we treating the what if stories? Are they just what ifs, completely off canon that we're having fun with?
So, Denise, I'm not sure if you're aware of the What If series.
No.
Okay, so there's Coming up, I believe, this fall, where there's going to be an animated series by Disney and Marvel called What If. It's voiced by all the people that have been all the stars of the MCU. Robert Downey Jr. It'll be the last performance of Chadwick Boseman in the MCU. Rest in peace. But Haley Atwell as Peggy Carter. Chris Evans is Steve Rogers. But what these stories are is they're coming from The Watcher, which, do you remember in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, the Stan Lee cameo where he's in that orange spacesuit and he's talking to those 3 giant-headed aliens?
Yeah.
Those are Watchers. What Watchers are is they are a race of beings that are given a universe. And I'm talking multiverse universe. So our Watcher, Uatu, he watches the Earth 616, the comic book universe. He sees literally everything. Think of Heimdall. You know how Heimdall sees everything?
Yes.
From the Thor movies, the guy with the Bifrost guy.
Yeah.
He sees everything, and he was curious how the frost giants got past him. Well,
those beautiful eyes.
Uatu, the Watchers, they see everything. Everything? But they cannot interfere. That's why their species are called the Watchers. They can only
They're recording
watch and
history.
They are historians. They can't now. In Marvel 616, Uatu is very much like Mobius, that he's Cavalier, and he tends to interfere. But
so we get this wonderful little branch of stories.
Branch. Now, because it's animated, I feel like these will probably just be multiversal stories, but they've been pruned. But what they were in the comic books is like, what if Peggy Carter took the super soldier serum and became Captain Britain instead of Steve Rogers becoming Captain America? Right. What if Black Panther got picked up by Yondu and became Star-Lord as a child instead of Peter Quill? One of those stories is what if Loki was worthy of Thor's hammer. That's one of the stories coming. So we're going to get this, I think it's 10 episodes. We're going to get 10 episodes, so each one will be a unique story. Yeah. But
maybe even like Doctor Strange beats an evil version of himself.
Oh, yeah, there's a big Doctor Strange episode coming where Doctor Strange went down the path of the dark dimension, and now the original Doctor Strange has to fight the dark Doctor Strange, and it looks amazing. So what was your question, Denise?
Do you think maybe that's why one of the versions of Loki had the hammer then?
Possibly, yeah. Both.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most
it's possible. Now, granted, his was more like a steampunk put together version of it, but still, yeah. The thing we have to realize that there's a reason What If isn't coming out until the fall. Because it's after that, like after this series, the multiverse opens up. This, as Kevin Feige put it, this is the most important Disney Plus series to the future of the MCU. So by the end of this, the multiverse should expand out and explode. And then we have What If, we have Spider-Man No Way Home, we have Doctor Strange in a Multiverse of Madness, all coming up.
Okay, question.
Yeah.
The No Way Home name, I think that has anything to do with the multiverse?
Well, if the theories and rumors are to be true, possibly. We know that Doctor Strange will be in Spider-Man No Way Home. He's kind of taken over Tony Stark's mentor role. But it's kind of forced on him. Because the movie picks up... We do know that the movie picks up immediately after the post-credit scene from Far From Home.
Right.
Where Spider-Man is outed as Peter Parker. So Peter, MJ, and Ned... I don't know where Ned comes from in this, but he's there. I don't know if they were meeting, like Ned was already there where they were meeting, like after the swinging. I don't know. But they immediately go to the closest safe house they can think of, the Sanctum Sanctorum. And they go to find Doctor Strange for help, because it's the only person he can think of that's right there in New York. And Doctor Strange is supposed to help with that. But in the meantime, now this is all a rumor. Take this with a big grain of salt. Supposedly, when they go to find Strange, Strange is already dealing with the multiverse issue that comes off the back of WandaVision and Loki.
Loki, yeah.
So he's already dealing with this fight. We are confirmed that Alfred Molina, his Dr. Octopus, is coming back. That's confirmed. We know that Jamie Foxx's Electro from Amazing Spider-Man 2 is coming back. That is confirmed. It was rumored that by the Hollywood Reporter of all people, like a reputable source, that Willem Dafoe was on set as Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin.
God, he was great.
Emma Stone was rumored. Kristen Dunst was rumored. And of course, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield have been rumored to return as Spider-Man. Their versions of Spider-Man in this film.
Yes.
With the Loki series expanding the multiverse, and the fact that they'd already defined that if there is a multiverse, it creates ripples and effects, and it creates a multiversal war. That it's a bad thing to have a multiverse. Doctor Strange is going to be the one that has to deal with all this as Sorcerer Supreme. Now, granted, he's technically hasn't gotten that title yet. I'm sure in this film he will get that title. So, yeah, there's, like, I think the No Way Home, part of that is the fact that Peter is going to be on the run because he's just been outed and been called a murderer. You know, the world still thinks Mysterio is a good guy. And Mysterio, they played that up perfectly, which I don't think Mysterio's dead because that was shot. That was shot afterwards. Like his whole speech about Spider-Man being Peter Parker.
Right.
That was after. There's no way that was shot beforehand. He was laying where he was laying when Peter thought he was dead and just left him there because he's a kid. He doesn't know any better. He's 16, 17 years old. Like, he's dead. I'm gone. You know, so I don't think Mysterio is dead. Plus, Mysterio isn't just one person. It's a whole team. So they could put somebody else in the Mysterio costume. Yeah, so No Way Home has multiple meanings. Is that one, he can't go to his Aunt May's place, obviously, because that's the first place the police are going to go, is his home. But also I think it has a lot to, like, if the rumors are true, the multiverse is going to be having issues kind of almost collapsing in on itself. And sure enough, some people can't go home. They're going to be stuck in this universe. So I'm just super excited. Like, even if nobody else shows up, getting Alfred Molina back as Doc Ock, that's amazing. Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, that was good.
Still such an amazing film.
I like that one.
I
can't picture anybody else doing his role.
No. So good. I couldn't even fathom it. All right, guys. Any last thoughts on Loki episode 4 or the future of the MCU coming up?
Yeah, I wish you would have told her what her Nexus event was.
Oh, yeah. Let's dive into that. How cold of it was of Renslayer? Like, I don't remember. I remember you.
Yeah.
Like, if you remember her, you remember why she was picked up. And she's like, I don't remember. Like, she didn't want to give her the satisfaction of telling her. But
she had that crooked smile on her face, too.
Yeah.
She really thought about what her response was going to be. She was just like...
Yeah. But I think it could have been just the fact that she existed.
Yeah.
Huh.
Being that she wasn't the Loki that was supposed to be there. The sacred timeline called for the Loki we've seen in the MCU. So her being a woman, being gender fluid that Loki is, and choosing to be a woman as a child, they're like, oh, you're a variant. You're a variant just for existing. So no. And there was something interesting. The Timekeepers did say, Sylvie, you are a child of the Timekeepers.
Yeah, what was that about?
I think it's because she was picked up at such a young age and then escaped. She never got to go home. She's been jumping through time. And it's like, you only exist.
A wayward child.
Yeah, you only exist because we took you. It was basically like a forced adoption. Like, it's not adoption. Like, they were gonna prune her. But they're basically like, oh no, you're our child now. Because you only exist because we picked you up. And I thought that was really messed up. But what if the reason they said that is because it's a Loki bot? Like, it's that Loki. It's King Loki. The Loki who thinks he is the superior Loki.
I think it's one being, not three.
Oh, I think it might be. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be one. Like I said, it's the Wizard of Oz, man behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Right.
The King theory has some merit. I just don't see them trying to force feed us a whole character like that. When the series is called Loki, it's been all about Loki, and they have done nothing but talk about who is the superior Loki. I think it's a Loki. I think it's King Loki, or just another version of Loki, who was able to manipulate his way into taking over the TVA, and now he wants to take away everybody's. Because what was Loki's speech in Avengers?
I am a god.
Well, not just that. Free will was the biggest farce that human beings ever had. That peace, true peace, was being subjugated. You crave subjugation. That's the only way you'd actually know peace. In other words, eliminating the free will of the people. Make them the slaves of Loki. That was his whole speech.
Yeah, I remember that part.
So, what's the best way to eliminate free will? Take over time. Control literally everything.
Huh. Your theory is making more sense there, sir.
Thank you. And let's see how wrong I am with 2 episodes to go. So
I hope my thing is right about another Mobius. That would be fun.
Yeah, that would be really interesting to definitely.
Yeah.
So again, Denise, what are you kind of like? And again, we tried this last week, and we were all wrong. What are you kind of expecting from the next 2 episodes of Loki?
Oh my gosh. Well, another Mobius. Now I'm expecting that. I don't know. It would be cool to see if your theory about King Loki is right. Seeing I keep forgetting the numbers. Was it 30? The not variant. The TVA agent is it
B-15.
B-15? No, the other one.
C-20.
C-20. Yeah, thank you. Her coming back, I bet.
Because she got pruned.
Yeah, so she could be on that. She could be in that limbo timeline too.
Yeah. And then I was thinking, does everybody get their own like apocalypse that they go to when they're pruned, or does everybody go to the same one?
Yeah, that's possible. Because why would everybody go to New York in a post-apocalyptic world?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Could it be that all Lokis go to that moment because it's a catalytic moment in his life?
Right. That's what I was thinking. Everybody kind of has their own thing.
But his, and why his and not all the other Lokis?
Like, does Mobius
because he's the main one.
Does Mobius go to? Yeah, but does Mobius go to like the 90s and goes to a jet ski place, but it's all disheveled and ruined because all the jet skis exploded or something?
Oh, that would be so sad.
Yeah. And all the Josta vending machines don't work, so we can't get any more Josta soda.
Oh no!
Oh come on! That's how he would sound. Oh come on!
So it could be different. Yeah. So maybe there's multiple but how would the pruning stick? It just prunes you, so is it based on your own subconscious?
I think so.
Maybe it is where your subconscious goes. Maybe that's their idea of death, or maybe it just, I don't know. Maybe it's something else guiding their souls elsewhere.
Yeah, maybe.
It could be some large level sorcery redirecting these people from, being pruned.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was just the Lokis they just redirected.
True. What if pruning isn't really a thing? It's just like another gateway.
Yeah, I just don't think pruning is a thing now. I think that was kind of proven.
Right.
I think it's just like you said, another gateway.
Yep.
And like I said, I'm only using the term limbo because I don't have any other thing for it. But even like Loki said, is this hell?
Right.
He thought he was dead. And he's like, they're like, no, but it will be if you don't come with us. Because
there is a limbo.
Wherever they're at is a very obviously aggressive and traumatic world.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like what would happen if Loki had won the Battle of New York. Because we saw the Avengers Tower and everything, so I don't know, maybe. Jason, what about you? What do you think's coming up?
So I think the villain will be revealed by the second to last episode for sure. I think we've been teased long enough. Because, if we only get one episode, I don't know. I don't think it would be enough to really flesh out the villain at this point. Even if it's only going to be within this series, and then we move on to something else. I don't know. I guess future of the MCU. I have a theory, but maybe I'm more hopeful than anything. This whole idea about changing and having all the ripples of time affect the timeline. I'm kind of hoping that maybe it'll go backwards and help the implementation of the mutants come into play. From what I remember, the whole creation of the mutant gene was with Apocalypse, and he was during the time of the Egyptian pharaohs. Mm-hmm. Is that correct? So, in other words, we would have to change everything backwards in the MCU to bring the mutants forward as if they were a normal everyday thing that always was. I don't know. That it does seem kind of messy. I'm just hopeful.
What if they did this? Because we're breaking into the multiverse. What if one of these timelines, mutants always existed?
Yeah.
And then they're brought over into the Marvel 199999 universe. They could do it that way.
Yeah, kind of like Crisis of Infinite Earths, where they just mash everybody together.
Yeah, in trying to fix the multiverse issue, we could end up bringing multiple universes together into the new MCU, in which case those mutants always existed. The ones that we get have mastered their powers, and now they're here. So that is a possibility for sure. All right, guys. Like I said, episode 4 to me is the greatest piece of media that Marvel has ever put out. It's one hell of an episode.
Oh, it was.
This episode 4.
Yeah.
I just think it was so well done. The writing on this is spectacular.
Yeah, I'm jealous.
And of course, once again, a lot of us nerds were in that WandaVision boat of theories. It's hard not to do. But if you have a theory, please comment down below what you think of our theories. Especially Denise's Mobius theory. I think that is tremendous and so outside the box, but also so incredibly possible.
Yeah.
So let us know.
You might catapult this show into popularity because of that.
Absolutely. So comment down below what you think. Make sure you like and subscribe. Share it with your friends. Let us know how we're doing. Let everybody in the world know out there that
right now.
This podcast gives you one of the most unique takes on all things nerd, giving you a full spectrum from noob to hardcore fan. So we want to thank everybody for tuning in. And next week, episode 5, it's going to be nuts. Tom Hiddleston warned us. He warned us that episode 4 and 5 were going to be crazy. And they're going to be intense. And he was not wrong on 4. So far from his character, I don't think Tom Hiddleston would lie. So, so we'll see how it goes. All right. So let's wrap this up, guys. Any last words?
God bless.
Stay nerdy.
All right, guys. Check you later.
Bye.